everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today I'm bringing back this series for one big one, and that happens to be Games I Wish Got Fan Translated, Part 12, the Big Edition. So as you can tell with the length of this video, it is much longer than my usual ones, because this time, instead of taking a look at 10, we're going to be taking a look at 20. So because of this, it probably might be a while before I make another one, because I just want to make one huge video where I want to talk about more games that I've been finding out about that I think look really interesting that I would like to play one day, but unfortunately are a little bit difficult. And as I always keep saying in all these videos, obviously I don't expect all these games to happen overnight, because making fan translations is not easy. It's definitely a very tedious process. But I have a lot of fun talking about these super obscure games that nobody's talking about, and they all do look like stuff that I would play because they all do look very interesting and fascinating to me. So yeah, I've always been saying that like a bajillion times by now. Well, more like 12, but anyways though, let's just get right to it. So the first one I want to mention here is a PS2 game, and that happens to be Vulcan Beat Darkness Sanctuary. So this is an action RPG that is based after an anime called Beat the Vandal Buster. And I'd never heard of it before, but apparently it has like 52 episodes, so that's kind of neat. But yeah, this game actually does look pretty nice. I like the graphical style. There's many different weapons you can change forms into, which I think looks really cool. I really do like the weapon variety that this game has. And it does look like a pretty solid game, but, you know, unfortunately, it's really hard to find information on this game outside of, like, the bare basic shit, which I've already said, though it is developed by the company named Shade. And they also happen to make the game Grand Stream Saga on PS1, and that game did seem pretty cool, so if it does play similar to that, I think I could probably enjoy this one. So if you guys have ever seen the anime before and you did really like it, then it's good to know that there is a game based after it, and it actually does look pretty interesting, so you might have to be on the lookout for this one. Alright, and next up we have is one on Super Nintendo. Yeah, there's still a couple Super Nintendo games that have yet to be fan translated, and this one happens to be Solid Runner. Yeah, that doesn't really sound like an RPG, it sounds like a running game, but no, this is actually a futuristic game with mechs. So this game was developed by Sting, who have made plenty of RPGs before, and this game was released in 1997. Yeah, that's pretty late for the SNES. And because of this, yes, the graphics in this game do look really damn good for the hardware that it's on. And it is a turn-based game, but the one thing that I did found to be kind of interesting is that every single action is indicated with all the different face buttons, kind of similar to how certain games are today, such as Persona 5 and the later Trails games. And all the attacks have to do with your arms or other weapons that you have equipped. But one thing that is different with this one that I know about with the story for the game is that instead of your character being like the typical mecha pilot, he's actually a detective that happens to ride a mech, which is kind of awesome. And because of the way how the battles work, they don't gotta worry about translating the menus for combat because there really isn't any. It's really just the other stuff that really needs to get done, but yeah, like I was saying, I think this game actually looks pretty damn good. I think this one has a lot of potential at being a really good late entry RPG on the Super Nintendo. And the next one we got here happens to be on the PS1 and the PC-98, and that happens to be Ryuki Densho Dragoon. So as I'm sure you know what I'm about to say, if you're on the PC-98, you're guaranteed to have some kick-ass graphics. Well, unless you're Sonora's Quest 2. But other than that one though, yeah, for the most part, you're gonna have some really awesome art style and graphics, and this one definitely does. So it is a typical fantasy adventure RPG that is turn-based, but the combat itself actually changes to a tactical RPG, so it kind of has the whole adventure aspect, but when you run into enemies, it then goes to grid-based where you just, move your characters around the field. And you do get some pretty cool battle animations too. No matter which version you're talking about, even the PS1 version still looks really nice. It kind of reminds me of another game I've talked about called Kuronoken Blade of Darkness. That's another game that's on the same two platforms, just like this game, and also just looks really great. So yeah, either that Kuronoken game or this one getting fan translated, I like to play both of them. And also with this one, we get to have another game on PS1 with Dragoon in the name, which is kind of amusing. And next up we got is another PS2 game, but this is not an RPG though. This one is actually a hack and slash game, and that happens to be Fun Bakumatsu Den. Yeah, look at that box art. Doesn't that just look really cool looking? In fact, it's actually done by the same guy that did like a lot of the Metal Gear artwork. So you might be thinking that, well, since this is a hack and slash game, shouldn't this game be already playable without a fan translation? And yeah, probably, but I did try to play this one a little bit, and I remember I couldn't get past a part because I had to, like, do something, and I couldn't read it, so I was like, well, time to turn off the game. Also, this game has a lot of cutscenes and menus you gotta go through, so yeah, that's another thing too. But I should also mention that there is two versions of this game. There is a PS2 version, which was developed by Genki, and then there's a PSP version, and you wanna know who developed that version? It was FromSoft. Yeah, how neat is that? But I never tried out the PSP version, so I don't know anything about it. But yeah, like I said, I did try out a little bit of the PS2 one, and even though I did get stuck at something, I can say that the gameplay did seem kinda interesting. It seemed a little bit more on the technical side of things, though, rather than being, like, over the top. But yeah, I'd be pretty cool with either one getting fan translated. And you never know, maybe the PSP version is even better, even despite the PSP not having a whole lot of buttons for heavy action games. But before we move on to the next game, one random fact that I know about this game was that the main character is voiced by Daisuke Ono, who happens to be the same guy that plays Jotaro in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so that's kinda awesome. And next up, we got one that's pretty strange, and even the name is a little strange too, and that happens to be Vulcan Crackshinpen no Tao on PS1. So this is an RPG where you create a character and it has a first-person view and you're just climbing up a tower, but whenever you run into enemies, it goes to a side view and it turns into a fighting game. How neat is that? So it kind of seems like a 3D version of another game I've talked about before called Sword Dancer, but just in this one, you're climbing up a tower and there's checkpoints in between certain spots. I don't know if this is a roguelike, I don't think it is, but it does seem like it might have some roguelike elements to it, but I don't think it's randomly generated though. And that's literally all I know about this one. This is one I might have to try out at some point. It does look kind of fascinating to me. And it was published by Asmic Ace Entertainment, which happened to be the same people that put out LSD Dream Emulator. So yeah, that probably explains like the whole weirdness of this game, which I am all up for. And next up we have a game that's on both the 3DO and Macintosh of all things, and that happens to be Belzerion, and it was made by Human Entertainment, so you know this is going to be a very interesting one. So this is a dungeon crawling game, and it doesn't seem like it has much RPG elements from what I know, but yeah, you do like walk around in a maze and you fight enemies and such, but you're using a mech, so that's kind of cool looking, and I kind of like the way this game looks. I don't know why, it just looks very fascinating to me. And this game has a shitload of text, like a lot from what I've seen. And there's many point-and-click elements to it too, and those are going to be the parts that are going to be hard to figure out what you're doing without knowing Japanese. So I can definitely say that Human Entertainment did indeed make a mech game, and boy does it look like a weird one. And honestly, I actually do really want to play this one. And next up we got is another PS1 game, and that happens to be Multi-Lancer Reinforced. So this is a game that combines three different things. It combines RPG turn-based combat, also combines some visual novel elements, and even some dating stuff, so you got a romance with some different characters. And it all takes place in the future where you do play as a police officer. And this one actually did get an anime made out of it, a 6-episode OVA, with also a pretty nice art style, so maybe I might have to check that one out just to see what it's all about. But it's really the name of this game that kind of got my attention, Multi-Lancer. I don't know, it kind of reminds me of Melty Blood. Of course it has nothing to do with that, but I thought the name was cool, the game also just has a cool art style and also just looks really nice too, so yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. I think there's like 2 other games in the series as well. I just wanted to talk about this one because it was the first one that popped up, but yeah, the other games in the series do look kind of similar as well. And next up we have is a PC Engine CD game, and that happens to be Ruin Kamino Isan. So this is a top-down view action RPG, and it kind of does look a little bit Ys-like, but you control 2 characters, a swordsman and a magician girl, but I don't know if this one is 2 players like that other one I talked about way before. I think it was called the Emblem of Darkness or something. So yeah, it's another fantasy-looking game, and I do like the graphical style in it. I think it has some really nice colors in it, and also, from what I've heard of the music, It's fucking awesome, and that overworld theme of this game is just so rockin', I just really love it a whole lot. So I can definitely say that the music in this game is top-notch PC Engine sound. So I'm always down to try out another E-style game on the PC Engine CD. Alright, and next up we got another weird one that is actually quite unique, and I kinda like it, and that happens to be Magical Medical on PS1, and this is from Konami, back when they used to make cool and creative games like this. So get this. The whole game is about this girl that ends up getting sick in the middle of class, and this guy happens to go inside her to cure her, and the game's genre is an action RPG. So yeah, it's an action RPG that takes place inside the human body. Now that's a very unique setting that I've never seen in an action RPG before. So fuck all the fantasy and space shit. Let's make Osmosis Jones or Cells at Work the RPG and call it a day. I don't know, I think that's just really cool and creative. I really like that. So as you can see, the game has a very interesting layout to it, and I also do like how bright and colorful the game is. Everything is kind of like cutesy looking. Like, I find the main character kind of looks like something that you would see in like a Bomberman game. And I can see this game getting really trippy as it goes out further, so yeah. This one looks like one of the more unique ones that I've taken a look at in like the last year or so, and I think it looks great. So next, we got another PS2 game, and this one happens to be... Okay, wait for me to fuck up the name of this game. It's called Tashio, Mananoke, Inabukuro. So this is an RPG from Gust that has nothing to do with the Atelier games. In fact, I actually find that the battle system in this game, the way how it's laid out, kind of reminds me of the very first Artanelico game. And I really like the background graphics in this game. I don't know how to explain it, but it just has a really nice shine to it. Like, it kind of looks like something you would see in, like, a visual novel background that's just very nice to look at. And one thing that I do know about this game is that it has a day cycle system, so, like, depending on the day that you're on, like, different events can happen on each day. But I don't think it has a time limit or anything like that, because it does say it has a 15-day cycle, which to me that sounds like one of those games where like once 15 days are up, it then kind of like goes back to like how it was like the first time you played the game or something. I don't know. I'm probably explaining it horribly, but anyways, yeah, it does have a sort of day system to it. And yeah, I think this one looks really nice. It kind of makes me wish we would have got this one back in the day, because it seems like that there was quite a few Gust games that came out on PS2 that we did actually get. And next up we have is a game on the Sega Saturn, and that happens to be Terra Fantastica, but Fantastica is spelled with PH, not an F. So I can say right off the bat, the cover art is really what got my attention with this game. And the game's graphics are pretty nice too. I really do like the character portraits in this one, and all like the way how like they made the grass and the trees look. But yes, it's a tactical strategy RPG on the Saturn, and well, you all know how much I love watching Rotor on the Saturn, though I don't know if this one's going to be anything like it though. This one looks to be more traditional, which is perfectly fine by me. And one thing that I literally just found out about as I was looking up this game recently is that someone is already working on a fan translation for this game, so hey, that's fucking great. But I still figured I'd mention it in this video, because not only does it just look like a really cool game, but I also don't hear a lot of people talking about it, even though it is being fan translated. So I wish them the best of luck. And alright, the next one we got here is yet another tactical strategy RPG, but this one is on the PC-98, and that happens to be, okay, another weird ass name. It's Zangenos Mashu Yomo Toki. Yeah, I totally nailed it. But to be serious though, this one also does look like a pretty cool traditional tactical RPG where everything's all hexagon looking, so kinda like the game Dark Wizard. And you know what I'm about to say? Yes, this game looks really gorgeous. Like, I love the bright colors in this game and the detail on the menus and the backgrounds and all this different CGs and cutscenes that they have. It just looks like a really beautiful game. And this game doesn't even have a Moby Game page yet, or even like PC98games.org page at all, so it's really hard to find info on it. But still though, it does look like a really cool looking tactical RPG though. I definitely do love the way this one looks the most. Alright, and as for this next game, this is also on another game system that I haven't talked about a game for, and it's something that's actually a lot newer, and that happens to be on the 3DS. Yes, we're going to be talking about a 3DS game here, and that happens to be Yugen Geisha Brave Company. Yeah, I don't really get the title, but fuck it, whatever. It actually has a really dope box art though. So as again, this is yet another strategy RPG, but this one also does include some like town building into it, which is kinda interesting. Also another thing that's kinda cool about this game is that it actually does have some guest characters, like it has Valkyrie from Valkyrie no Densu, and it even has that one girl from one of the Project Cross Zone games, like one of the original characters. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of info on this game, which I do think does make it kind of intriguing, but yeah, like I said, has a really cool cover from what I've seen of like gameplay. The graphics in it actually don't look too bad, and it has some like town building type stuff in it too, so yeah, like I said, it's kinda cool to find some random ass 3DS game that never came out over here, and of course, with the whole thing getting axed now, maybe this game might have a chance. Alright, so next up we got is yet another PS1 game, and that happens to be Dyboken Deluxe Harukanaru Yumi. So this one has both 2D and 3D graphics in it. So when you're just walking around town, it's 2D, but whenever you're going to battles or when you go into like ship stages, it goes to 3D. And yes, I did say ships because this is a game where you get to travel across like different lands on a ship, so kind of seems like a pirate RPG or some sort, which does sound pretty cool to me. And there are some 3D backgrounds within this game that actually do look kind of nice. I think it's really just the character models that are a little bit, yeah, those are a little bit rough, but the 2D sprites in it do look pretty solid though. And I feel like that the whole idea of this game definitely seems like something I came up with when I was younger. Like I probably thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if we can get a pirate RPG on the PlayStation? And then lo and behold, there already was one that came out in '97, we just didn't get it over here. But yeah, I do find this one does look kinda cool. And next up we have is another PS1 game, and this one happens to be Wonder Bee Cruise. So this is another strategy game, but unlike the other ones, this is actually one that takes place with tanks, kinda like Advance Wars, but only that instead of humans, it's anamorphic creatures. And it definitely reminds me of Tail Concerto a little bit, though not on the same level of detail as that, but very similar character design looks. And it has to do with dogs, cats, and monkeys. So yeah, this one doesn't look too bad, it does seem fairly interesting. It's definitely different for the genre, that's for sure. Alright, and the next one we're going to be mentioning here is a series of games. I figured I'd include them all here, and that happens to be Ugento Monogatari. And now here's the thing that's interesting, is that in a previous episode, I actually talked about one of these games, but it had a completely different name. It was the one called Haruyuki the Reportage Beyond the Sea. You know, the whole survival island RPG game. Yeah, so I found out that that game actually belonged to a series, and this is the name of it, Ugento Monogatari. So the original one actually came out on the PC98, the FM Towns, and the SNES. And apparently the FM Towns version actually has some voice acting in it. And it has the same setting, a survival island RPG, which I've already talked about, which does seem like a pretty cool idea. And then the second game of this series is very similar and was only released on the PC98. And then the third game was also exclusive, but the one thing that is very different about this one is that this one actually takes place in a town that got struck by an earthquake, so it has a very different setting and feeling to it. And I do find that a whole RPG that takes place in a destroyed town like this does seem to be kinda cool. And of course, as you would expect, I love the way that a lot of these games look. And then the fourth game in the series was the one that I talked about that had a completely different name. So yeah, I just really wanted to mention that yeah, there are other games in this series and they all actually do look really cool. I can probably see the SNES one getting fan translated because it's probably easier to work with the tools for that one. And alright, now as for the last 4 games I'm going to be mentioning here, this is where I'm going to get to the weird section. So these are games that I'm just going to mention for lulz because I don't expect these to get fan translated like anytime soon, and if they do, it probably would be just for a joke because some of these games are, yeah, a little goofy. So the first one here that we'll mention for the goofy section happens to be Dragoon Tycoon Edge on the 3DO. Yeah, what a name is that? Dragon Tycoon Edge. It's like Dragon Tycoon, like, you know, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, and then Edge. It's edgy. So this happens to be a dungeon crawling RPG if it took place in a weird psychedelic world, which kind of fascinates me. And the graphics in it are kind of ugly, but kind of cool. I don't know. It's fugly cool, I guess. Yeah, this definitely does seem like an acid trip RPG, and you know what? Sometimes an acid trip RPG is not always a bad idea. Alright, and the next weird one we got here is one that I've known about for a while, but I just never really talked about it because honestly it looks kind of crappy, but you know what, just for fuck it, we'll just mention it here. It's called Yaku Yujo Dangi. Yeah, look at that Nightmare Fuel looking cover. Like, doesn't that just make you want to play the game? And it was from Idea Factory of all things. So yes, this happens to be a visual novel adventure game where it has a very typical horror story where people go into a mansion and then they go missing. And yeah, look at the character models. The character models in this game is so freakishly weird that it kind of intrigues me. Yeah, definitely one of the ugliest looking visual novels that I've seen in a while, but so yeah, not much needed to say on this one, but yeah, you're welcome now that you know that exists. Alright, and as for the next game we're taking a look at here, will be on the Xbox, but here's the thing, it's an Xbox game that definitely does not look like an Xbox game, and that happens to be Cat Cyber Attack Team. Yeah, look at that cover art, isn't that the most moe thing you've ever seen? So it is a tactical strategy game where you play as a bunch of cat girls that have to go inside a computer and fight viruses. Yeah, like I said, definitely not the most Xbox looking thing you'll ever see. And honestly, it doesn't look like that bad of a game, it just looks weird if anything. Let me put it this way, I don't think you'll ever catch anyone in the WWE playing a game like this. And as for the final game I'm going to be mentioning in this video, and it probably has one of the dumbest names ever, and that happens to be Not a Treasure Hunter. It's like, okay, well, if you're not a treasure hunter, then what the fuck are you? Also, look at this cover art, like, that's such a badass cover, and yet it happens to have the dumbest name on it. That'd be like taking this really cool artwork right here for a cover, and then putting the name Turkey Tacos on the cover. Well anyways, so what this game is that it's an adventure game where you have like a little inventory, you use items, and there's like multiple choices you do, and yeah, I've actually played this game once before, and it's pretty terrible, but oh my god is it fucking hilarious. Like, first of all, like, look at his walk cycle. That is the most hilarious walk cycle I've ever seen. And yes, the controls in this game are pretty crap, and it's really easy to die in it, so yeah, like I said, definitely not a good game, but would I like to see it get fan translated? Well, maybe for lulz I would, but I really wouldn't count on it. And I feel like most of these other games, I think, deserve it way more than this, so yeah, there you go. There's your last weird one for today. So that takes us to the end of Games I Wish Got Fan Translated Part 12, the big edition. So yeah, I know I wish I could have went on more about some of these other games, but as you know, it's kinda hard to play them when you can't read the shit, but as I always say, it's cool to just talk about these games and bring awareness to them, and you know, maybe someone out there might have actually played these games before and can actually tell me and everyone else more about them. So as always, what are some games that you wish got fan translated, or some games that, you know, that I've talked about in the past or in this one that do look very interesting to you, and that maybe one day, yeah, they might get fan translated, or hell, even better, imagine if one of these games ended up getting an official translation years later. I mean, that's happened with the Silver Case and a couple of other random-ass games, so you never know, right? So yeah, I probably won't make another one of these for a while because, you know, I feel like this is like a lot of fucking games that I've been mentioning over the past couple of years since I've started this series, and Maybe one day, once more games actually get fan translated that were in the videos that I mentioned get done, maybe I can do a video called Fan Translations Wished Fulfilled or something like that. Well, anyways, with that being said, thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.